and welcome to the Bullcast Podcast. I'm Katie Pickler, and with me, as always, my favorite guys, Court Winsett.
Hello.
And Cameron Spann.
Pump up the jam. Pump it up.
Ooh, I love that song. Space Jam. Let's bring back some Space Jam stuff, okay?
I'm in the basketball mindset right now, Katie.
Why?
March Madness.
Woo! March Madness. You know, I'm a big baseball fan. I am not a big basketball fan. It's just all I hear is squeaky shoes.
It's kind of a truism, but you really can't be a native Memphian and not be a basketball fan. I grew up with the Tigers, the Memphis State Tigers, and Dana Kirk and all of that fun.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I didn't care about basketball at all until I moved up here. And then it was Grizzlies. Grizzlies for life, because this is a basketball city. I mean, it was at one point. It was the place.
Well, I am a Memphian, so I guess I just missed that memo. I appreciate it. I'm fine going in person to go to games. I cannot really watch it on TV, but that's a lot of sports. I'd rather be in person, and I can get behind it. I know Memphis is huge with it, but I'll be honest, 5, 10, 15 years ago, when I'd hear March Madness, I just knew don't schedule events around that. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal, but I never really understood what March Madness was. So I'm hoping you guys can kind of educate me as well on this episode.
Educate.
And I know a lot of this episode it's a fun episode.
Yeah.
The history of it, the money behind it. But let's just talk about the upsets that have already taken place.
Oh, yeah, because we're one weekend in already, and people's brackets have been busted.
I did see the last 5 minutes of the Memphis game, though.
Yeah. Heartbreaker. But Farley Dickinson beating the number 1 seed. Mm-hmm. History was made. And I read, at least this was last night, it could be over now, one person out of over 2 million still have their bracket intact.
Holy crap.
One person left.
Okay, wait. So just for me, explain to me the brackets.
The brackets?
Yeah. So it's just is this kind of like with fantasy football where you'd pick your players? So people have their brackets of who they think is going to move forward?
The brackets are already set. So you had Purdue versus Farley Dickinson, which is a top seed and the 16 seed. That's kind of how it works. And you see this bracket and you pick, okay, I think Purdue's going to win. So it's already preset, but you can pick your own bracket based on that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're picking who you think
you're picking
the
upsets, or you're picking the big dog.
Okay.
Basically, there are 68 teams, 4 that get basically a play-in game. And then, so you end up with a bracket of 64 that are on the bracket. And so you start with the basically a blank bracket, except for all 64 teams and their initial game matchup. Mm-hmm. And then you just go through and select who you think is going to win over and over and over again until you get to the finals.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've heard of Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4. It just keeps narrowing down until you've got your 2 teams left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Robin and I always pick teams based on not so much who we actually think are the great teams and who's going to win, but based on where our kids go to school. Every year we picked Virginia to win, and they won exactly one time while my daughter was there.
Okay, let's get into the list. This is the greatest NCAA tournament games ever played. And this is by FanBuzz.
Very credible source.
The first one. NC State versus Houston, 1983.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, I guess y'all don't remember, but you weren't even alive yet.
Nope.
I very much remember this coach. The big reason that NC State was so famous is because they had a very recognizable and, I guess, excitable coach. His name was Jimmy Valvano. He ended up, I think, that year, he won an ESPY.
Yeah, it's because it says later known for his famous "Don't give up, don't ever give up" speech.
Yeah, so he was ridden with cancer, and you've heard of V Foundation, right? Well, it's on all their commercials and stuff. It's for him. It's because he had cancer, and he gave this speech at the ESPYs, and it was phenomenal. I wasn't alive when it happened, I don't think, but I've watched it.
The game that we're referencing was '83, and I don't remember when the speech was. Next one on the list is Baylor versus Georgia State.
Fairly recent.
2015. 2 14 seeds upset 3 seeds in the first round in 2015. Kevin Ware made his first NCAA appearance after destroying his leg 2 years earlier in the Elite Eight, and Georgia State University head coach Ron Hunter sprung off the bench after his son, star guard RJ, drilled the go-ahead 3 from what felt like the 5th row with 2.7 seconds left, known as one of the best upsets in tournament history.
Wow.
It's always the coach's son, isn't it? Oh, I get the sad one.
Yeah.
Kansas versus Memphis, 2008.
Ugh, man. Such an absolute gut-wrenching game. I was in law school at the time. I went to University of Memphis for law school, and I remember the entire season. It was such a fantastic season. It was so great. And then in the finals, they tied us with like a second left to send the game into overtime. And we completely fell apart in overtime. We just absolutely couldn't score to save our lives in overtime.
Yeah, it says here Memphis missed 4 of 5 free throws and blew a 9-point lead in the last 2 minutes, and the Jayhawks' Mario Chalmers drilled a 3 with 2.1 seconds left. And the most notable point here, Memphis fans still hate John Calipari.
Yeah.
That runs deep.
Well, I mean, Kentucky's out this year. So.
Yeah, they Kentucky has not gone past the first round of the NCAA tournament since like 2018, I think.
Yeah, there's so many memes out there that it's like, Memphis fans, you say Calipari, and they're all like, no, we still hate him. So I do know that.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one on the list, UMBC. So that's University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
Must be a large college.
Very random. Versus Virginia.
Yeah, okay. So this is, until this year, Virginia was the only number 1 ranked team ever to get knocked out of the tournament by a number 16 ranked team. And that was the year that they were supposed to win it all. On top of the rankings the entire season, going into the tournament, everybody was like, oh, this is Virginia's year. And they ended up getting knocked out in the first round by the 16 rank. And
beating them by 20.
Yeah, it was ugly. It was absolutely ugly. I was sitting at Huey's with my family. We were talking about how Virginia was going to go all the way. And I think when we left dinner, I heard that they had lost. And I was like, holy, mind-blowing. Terrible game. Next on the list is Michigan versus North Carolina, 1993. Who doesn't remember this? I guess y'all don't remember it because you would.
So we 5-year-old.
Yeah, you were a little young. This would be Michigan, the Michigan team, the Fab Five. They were huge that year, going up against, of course, North Carolina, the Tar Heels.
All right, next on the list, I get a good one. Duke vs. Kentucky, 1992. Now, I have heard of this one because it was so epic. Widely regarded as one of the greatest basketball games ever played, the Blue Devils and Wildcats fought it out in a high-scoring back-and-forth game. Grant Hill chucked a pass most of the way down the court to Christian Laettner, who turned at the free throw line and drilled maybe the most famous last-second shot in NCAA tournament history. Another side note, I Hate Christian Laettner documentary on ESPN is also incredible, and everyone should watch.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So Villanova versus North Carolina.
Yes.
2016. Considering the stakes, this might be the greatest NCAA tournament game ever played. Okay, well, we just said Duke and Kentucky was the greatest. So,
with 4.7 seconds left, UNC's Marcus Page drilled an absurd off-balance 3 to tie the game.
It would have been the shot of the tournament, except Villanova's Chris Jenkins drilled a buzzer beater for the national title only seconds later.
You know, you have those perennial teams that always appear, at least in recent history. You've got Gonzaga, you've got Duke. Villanova is almost always there. They're at basketball school.
I hate Villanova.
Where is Villanova? That just sounds very like Genovian. Where is it?
I happen to know this, Katie. It's in Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Google.
Villanova, of course, not so famously. I remember when they knocked the Tigers out of the NCAA tournament in like 1984. This was when the Tigers were, again, this was Keith Lee. It was a great team, and Villanova beat them in, I think, the Final Four.
There's the list.
Okay, so 2023 March Madness schedule. Men's Final Four is April 1st, and the title game is April 3rd. So mark your calendars. Women's Final Four is March 31st, and that title game is April 2nd. Okay, so you got a game to watch on the 31st, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Get your snacks ready. How much does the NCAA make off of March Madness? Because, I mean, there's tons of advertising about it. People really get into it. Okay, so the NCAA typically pulls in about $1 billion each year in revenue from media rights. There you go with the advertising, ticket sales, corporate sponsorships, and a ton of television ads anchored around the 3-week-long tournament. I mean, I do feel like it's everywhere, and that's where, like, I didn't really understand what March Madness was, but I knew, like, everybody's talking about it. I thought it was, like, 24 hours of basketball, but it's just that it's, like, afternoons and late at night, and it's just kind of not a normal schedule.
Yeah, it feels like an awful lot of basketball going on, especially if you're not a big basketball fan, because on any given Friday during the tournament, people are talking about games all day at work and everything.
So big brands also will take their piece of the profit, but NCAA conference commissioners and executives will see the heftiest cash out. Oh, okay, so they're getting some big payouts. The starting retail price for a ticket to one of the 2022 Final Four games cost about $132.
Nosebleeds, I'm assuming?
Probably. Around 19% more beer is sold to keep up with the cheering fans. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure, concessions are going crazy with that. So in 2021, college athletes' governing body earned $1.15 billion in revenue. How much do the players earn? Zero.
If you want to know more, go listen to our NIL episode.
According to the NCAA, about 90% of the money that is collected immediately flows out to the member schools. It's the only system in place that assigns a monetary value based on athletic performance. Okay. And each of the team's conferences will get a piece of the pot of money known as the Basketball Performance Fund. This fund is nearly $170 million for 2022. And I'm sure that number just keeps growing.
There's just money in sports.
Yeah.
I mean, just so much money.
Yeah.
And it's so... this isn't in this episode, but I know I really want to do an episode on this because I'm now starting to find clients that are having this. Sports betting.
Oh, yeah.
It's easier than it ever has been before because it used to be you'd have to go and find a bookie and you'd have to go to the casinos or you'd have to go somewhere. Now it's at your phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We briefly touched on it in the episode with your cousin.
Lee, yeah.
With Lee. And I want to talk more about it because I just remember discussing how it's so addicting and I have to remove the app from my phone or I will get us in financial trouble.
I have watched a little bit of it, but it's here's a March Madness ad. Here's a sports betting ad. Here's another March Madness and more sports betting. And it's your celebrities are pitching it and you're well, yeah, I want to do that.
Do it. I mean, I put $5 down on a game and I won $150 and I'm oh, I can do this. But no.
Yep. Okay, sorry. I just had to throw that in there because that is a big financial thing that it's there's money in sports. You want to pay to go to the game. And when you're there, you're going to pay for the beer or you're going to pay for the popcorn, hot dog, whatever it may be. But then it's also you get that fever. You're in it. You're wanting to bet. You're wanting to be a part of it.
Yeah. It's another way that people can participate.
They're part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, this says March Madness by the numbers. 6 hours are spent watching March Madness by the average worker.
Okay, this is interesting. When they say average worker, do they mean this is watched at work?
I'm wondering. Yeah. I have gotten...
Yeah. Just have it on the second screen.
Yeah.
I have gotten some Snapchats from people that are oh, it's a light day, and they've got March Madness on their computer. So, people are doing it. I guess if you can multitask.
I find this next one interesting. John Calipari, who we've already talked about a little bit, makes $8.1 million, making him college basketball's highest paid coach.
That is bananas.
Yeah.
The estimated amount wagered on the 2022 NCAA tournament is $10 billion, while $4 billion estimated amount wagered illegally.
Oh.
The sport betting industry lost $4 billion after March Madness was canceled in 2020.
But they did.
Holy crap. Okay, so hold on. So they lost $4 billion when it was canceled in 2020. So that tells you the impact of the sports betting.
Yeah.
And that was in 2020. Yes, the economy has kind of gotten a little different since then, but I imagine here in 2023, that number is probably much higher than that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because it has gotten easier. Because back in 2020, did they have the sports betting?
They did,
online?
But it was still in its infancy, just the apps were starting to come out. So
50 million people participate in NCAA college basketball bracket pool. So that's what y'all were talking about before. Mm-hmm. The average bet on a tournament is $35. So that doesn't seem bad, but if you think about it, if you're betting $35 for every single game...
See, that's my kind of bet, low commitment. Mm-hmm. I can justify it to my wife.
Hey, it's justifying as long as you're not taking your kids' college money or your retirement money or your mortgage payment to do that, it's okay. If you know that is money that can be thrown away, it's fine. So maybe... instead of going to Starbucks,
I was just about to say, it's just 9 trips to Starbucks.
Yeah.
It's just,
So it's if you know you're going to do that, then just know, cut it from somewhere else.
30% more money is wagered on March Madness than the Super Bowl.
Now that's crazy.
Really?
Well, if you think about it.
Well, it's more games.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl
is one game.
Widely watched. Yeah, that's just interesting
I feel like the Super Bowl is kind of losing its pizzazz. Or maybe that's just me.
Wait until 1 year when Dallas is back in it, and you'll be right back into it.
I'm going to be waiting a while.
The teams
we did lose Zeke, though, so
yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
People are tired of watching the Chiefs win.
I feel like, yeah, it's like we're tired of the same people.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I'm not an Alabama fan, but I was so tired of seeing them always win the national championship. Mm-hmm. Like, come on now. This is ridiculous. It can't be fun anymore. It's like you keep winning.
Yeah, I felt that way when Tampa won. Yes, Tom Brady led them, but it was nice seeing another football team name being crowned the victor.
But it sounds like in this basketball world, like, that's not happening. There are tons of upsets. There's not, like, the typicals that are going to be winning.
Farley Dickinson's going all the way. All right. 149 million tournament brackets completed in 2019, while 156 million ballots were cast in the presidential election.
Okay, hold on. 156 million for presidential election, 149 brackets. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's crazy.
You have a 1 in 9.2 quintillion odds of filling out a perfect bracket.
Well, apparently there's the one guy, right? He's okay right now.
Holding on for dear life.
It's 2 times easier to win back-to-back lotteries buying one ticket each time than it is to fill out a perfect bracket.
78% of employees say celebrating March Madness at work boosts morale.
Okay.
$19.6 billion paid by CBS Turner Broadcasting for the 2011 to 2023 TV rights.
$944 million TV ad revenue from the 2021 NCAA tournaments, up 4% from 2019.
$1.86 trillion, the collective market cap of 17 out of the 19 corporate partners and sponsors of the NCAA.
The estimated price of a 30-second ad during the 2022 title game was $2 million, while the price of a 30-second commercial during the Super Bowl, that would have been 56, was $7 million.
Ooh, that's crazy. $23.6 billion is the social media impressions for the 2019 National Championship.
$69, the starting retail ticket price for a 2022 First Four game.
$132, starting retail ticket price for 2022 Final Four.
$2.3 billion wing portions consumed by fans during the tournament. So 2.3 billion wings are being consumed. That's a lot of wings. Tyson needs to be supported. They need to be a sponsor.
Absolutely.
Get your wings from Tyson.
While this is a funsy episode, there's a lot of money in this sport.
There's
a ton of money.
Mm-hmm. Whether you're a fan, whether your kids go to a college that has a strong basketball presence, that's going to affect the money that goes to the school. Whether you're athletes, things like that. It's huge. And it also stimulates those cities' economy, because if you're hosting a game, people are going to come in, they're going to use the hotels, they're going to use the restaurants, things like that. So it's good to have a good team that's in this, because it gives more presence.
And it justifies why these young men are pursuing the NIL deals. They see all of this money that goes into the sport. Mm-hmm. They are the performer, and they're getting nothing out of it. So they're like, I want a cut.
Yeah.
Yep. It's hard to argue at that point.
Okay, so since I do not know much about basketball, what are y'all's Final Four/championship predictions?
All right, Court, I'll go first if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Final Four: Alabama, Tennessee, Houston, and Gonzaga. And I have, because it happens a lot, Gonzaga taking the whole shebang.
I can't really argue a lot with your Final Four, except I'm going to say that Alabama is not going to make it past Princeton.
Ooh.
I'm saying I'm calling Princeton for the upset. So it's going to be Princeton in that Final Four instead of Alabama.
Interesting.
We will see.
We will see. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, there's the closing bell. You've made it to the end of yet another episode of the Bullcast Podcast. If you liked what you heard and you'd like to hear more, please feel free to go to your favorite subscription service and sign up to have our podcast beamed directly to your device every single Thursday at noon. If you'd like to find out more about me and Katie and Cameron, we have a website. That website is bullcastpodcast.com. Feel free to go there, check out our bios, leave a comment, suggest a topic if there's something you'd like to hear us talk about. If you like pictures, boy, do we have pictures. We've got an Instagram handle that is @BullcastPodcast, and we also have a Twitter handle that is @BullcastPodcast. We have a Facebook page that is Bullcast, the podcast, I believe. And as we have regularly mentioned to you before, We work at a place called Pickler Wealth Advisors, and if you'd like to find out more about what we do there, about our amazing team, and about our boss, David Pickler, then feel free to go to that website. That is picklerwealthadvisors.com.
That's advisors with an O.
Not an E.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have given you everything you need to go forth and be merry. So for now, I am Court.
I'm Katie.
I'm Cam.
And we out.